legionary can't see more than 20 feet ahead. Rain hammers down through the canopy, turning the forest path into a river of mud that sucks at his boots with every step. Somewhere in the trees, left, right, he can't tell anymore, men are screaming. Not battle cries. The wet, animal sounds of men dying slowly. An arrow punches through his friend's neck. No warning whistle, just a wet crack, and Marcus is on his knees, drowning in his own blood, fingers clawing at the shaft. The column stumbles forward because stopping means dying. The trees press in like prison walls. Another volley hisses out of the fog. Shields splinter. A Optio 20 feet ahead takes a spear through the eye socket and goes down thrashing. They've been walking into this meat grinder for 3 days. 3 entire legions, 15,000 of Rome's best soldiers, are trapped in a 6-mile-long killing corridor designed by a man they called friend. The standards are gone. The eagle of the 19th Legion is being dragged through German mud. Officers are abandoning their men. Camp followers are being butchered in the baggage train. And somewhere ahead, the general who led them here is finally understanding what every dying man around him already knows. This isn't a battle. It's an execution. This is the moment Rome learned that its legions could bleed, that the machine could break, that the eagles could fall. This is Teutoburg Forest, and this is where empire dies screaming in the mud. If you want the real stories, the ones where empires bleed, heroes break, and history doesn't give you a happy ending, stay until the end. You'll want to hear how this ends. September 9 AD, Germania. The dark forests east of the Rhine River, where Roman civilization ends and the barbarian world begins. For 20 years, Rome has been trying to digest Germania the way it devoured Gaul. Forts along the Rhine, client kings, tax collectors, the systematic machinery of empire, grinding another free people into provincial dust. It's been working. The Germans have been fighting each other instead of Rome. Tribe against tribe. Perfect. Publius Quinctilius Varus commands here. 3 legions, the 17th, 18th, and 19th. Elite formations. Veterans of the Balkans. With auxiliaries, camp followers, and the baggage train, maybe 25,000 people total. Varus isn't a soldier, he's an administrator, a taxman in a general's armor. He thinks Germania is pacified. He thinks these Germans are like the Syrians he governed before, conquered people who just need the right incentives to stay down. He's wrong. The Germans have a plan. They have a leader, and they've been sharpening their axes. Arminius, 26 years old, chieftain of the Cherusci tribe, Roman citizen, trained in Roman tactics, Roman discipline, Roman arrogance. He's served in the Roman military. He commands German auxiliaries in Varus's own army. He eats at Varus's table. Varus trusts him completely. That trust is about to cost Rome 3 eagles and 15,000 lives. The stakes? If Arminius succeeds, he proves Rome can be beaten, that the legions can be destroyed, that 30 years of conquest east of the Rhine was built on sand. If Varus survives, Germany becomes another province, and Arminius's people become another footnote in Roman history. One of these men is about to lose everything. The other is about to make history bleed.
Late summer, 9 AD. The campaign season is ending.
Varus has spent months settling disputes, collecting taxes, and reminding the Germans who's in charge. Now it's time to march the legions back to their winter camps along the Rhine. Standard procedure. They've done this a dozen times. Then the reports start coming in. A rebellion. Some tribe miles to the north has attacked a Roman garrison. Not a major threat, but it needs to be dealt with. Can't let them think Rome is weak. Arminius brings the news personally. Loyal Arminius. Rome's German success story. He knows the terrain, he says. He can guide the legions north. They'll crush the rebels and be back to the Rhine before the real autumn storms hit. Easy march. 5-6 days tops. Varus buys it completely. Other officers aren't so sure. Segestes, another German chieftain and Arminius' father-in-law, warns Varus directly. Arminius is planning something. Arrest him now. Varus laughs it off. Segestes hates Arminius because Arminius eloped with his daughter. This is just family drama. Romans don't arrest allies based on gossip. The legions march north. Understand what's actually happening here. This isn't some spontaneous tribal uprising. Arminius has spent months, maybe years, coordinating this. He's united tribes that have been killing each other for generations. Cherusci, Bructeri, Marsi, Chatti. Ancient enemies now bound by one shared hatred. Rome. He's scouted the perfect killing ground. Not an open field where Roman discipline dominates. Not a river crossing where Roman engineering wins. A forest path. Narrow. Hemmed in by hills and swamps. 6 miles of perfect ambush terrain where 15,000 men will be strung out in a column miles long, unable to form proper battle lines. And he's inside Varus's command structure, whispering in his ear, guiding him step by step into the trap. The legionaries don't know this yet. They're just marching. Grumbling about the detour, joking about easy loot from some backwater tribe. The baggage train stretches for miles. Supply wagons, slaves, merchants, prostitutes, families. This isn't an army on alert. It's a mobile city that thinks it's safe. The first day goes fine. The second day, the forest gets darker. Trails get narrower. And Arminius, citing some excuse about gathering allied forces, takes his German auxiliaries and disappears into the trees. He's not coming back. Third day. The column is deep in the forest now, strung out over miles of muddy trail, barely wide enough for the wagons. Then the rain starts. Not a drizzle, a deluge that turns the path into a slurry and makes every step a battle with the mud. That's when the attacks begin. Not a full assault. Javelins out of the trees, arrows from the hillsides. Small groups of Germans hitting the column, killing a few men, then vanishing back into the forest. The legionaries try to respond, but you can't form a battle line on a forest trail 6 feet wide. You can't charge uphill through dense undergrowth in full armor while it's pouring rain. They're being bled. Slowly. Methodically. Varus orders the column to keep moving. Standard Roman doctrine. If ambushed on the march, push through to open ground. Form up. Counterattack. Except there is no open ground. Just more forest. More mud. More arrows out of nowhere. A centurion named Lucius tries to organize a skirmish line to clear the hillside. Takes 40 men into the trees, German warriors melt away, draw them deeper, then cut them off from the column. Of the 40, maybe 10 make it back. Lucius isn't one of them. They find his body 2 hours later, stripped naked, his armor gone, his throat cut ear to ear. The baggage train is in chaos. Wagons overturning in the mud, civilians screaming, some trying to turn back, only to find Germans have closed the trail behind them. They're in a box now. 6 miles long and 20 feet wide. Night falls. The column stops because marching in total darkness is suicide. They try to build a fortified camp, standard Roman procedure. Except the ground is too wet for proper ditches. The timber for the palisade has to be cut from the surrounding forest, while Germans harass them from the darkness. What should take 2 hours takes all night. Men dig in the rain. No fires, too wet, and the smoke would just mark targets. Sentries hear movement all around them, shapes in the trees, war chants in the distance. Some sentries don't make it to morning. You find them at dawn, throats cut, eyes open, staring at nothing. A slave attached to the officer corps, a Greek named Philon who's seen 20 years of Roman campaigns, watches the legionaries work through the night. These men are the best infantry in the world. He's seen them cut through Dacian raiders, German war parties, Pannonian rebels. Professional killers who can march 20 miles and build a fortress before dinner. Now they're digging in mud that won't hold, building walls that won't stand. And he can see in their faces that they know something's wrong. This isn't a rebellion. This is a plan. And they're the ones being hunted. 4th day. Dawn. The camp they built barely kept them alive through the night. No rest. Just shivering in wet armor, listening to the Germans howl in the darkness. Varus holds a command meeting. Some officers want to abandon the baggage train, march light and fast, fight their way out. Others insist that abandoning the wounded and civilians is dishonorable, un-Roman. Varus decides they keep the baggage train. They keep moving north. They'll break through and link up with allied German tribes. There are no allied German tribes anymore. Arminius made sure of that. The column moves, slower now. Men are exhausted. Armor feels like it weighs 1,000 pounds. Shields are waterlogged, coming apart at the seams. And the attacks are getting worse. Not little raids anymore, organized assaults. Hundreds of Germans at a time, rushing the column, killing, retreating before the Romans can organize. Around midday, part of the baggage train tries to make a run for it. Just unhitch from the column and race back the way they came. Maybe 500 people, civilians, slaves, lightly armed auxiliaries. They don't make it a quarter mile. Germans swarm out of the forest and butcher them in the open. The screaming lasts for hours. That's when the legions start to break psychologically. These are men trained to stand in formation and face enemy armies. They're not trained for this, for being hunted through a forest, for watching civilians torn apart, for dying slowly from arrows they never see coming. Cohesion starts to crack. Units lose touch with each other in the mud and rain. An entire cohort of the 19th Legion gets separated, tries to form a defensive square, and gets overwhelmed. The Germans don't take prisoners. They're not here for ransom or slaves. They're here for revenge. Philon the Greek watches an officer, some tribune barely old enough to shave, lose his mind. Kids start screaming that they need to turn back, that Varus is leading them to slaughter. A centurion punches him in the mouth and drags him away. An hour later, Philon sees the same kid running into the forest, armor abandoned, just running. A spear drops him 30 feet into the trees. They're not going to make it. Everyone knows. No one says it. There is no main battle. That's the horror of it. There's just the long, grinding slaughter as the trap closes completely. By the fourth afternoon, what's left of the 3 legions, maybe 10,000 men still alive, reaches a clearing. For a moment, there's hope. Open ground, room to form proper lines. Finally, a chance to fight like Romans are supposed to fight. Then they see what's waiting. The Germans have built a wall. Not a crude pile of logs, an actual fortification. Earthwork rampart, wooden palisade, fighting platforms. They've been building it for weeks, right here in the path Arminius knew the Romans would take. And now, thousands of Germanic warriors are standing on top of it, armed with Roman weapons stripped from the dead, beating their shields and chanting. Varus stares at it. Finally understands. This was never a rebellion. This was always a killing floor, built specifically for his legions. He orders an assault anyway. What else can he do? They can't stay here, can't go back. Forward is the only direction left. The 17th Legion forms up, or tries to. These men are exhausted, wet, half-starved, and they've been under attack for 4 days. But they're Romans. They lock shields. They advance. The Germans let them get close. Then the arrows start. Not wild shots, massed volleys from hundreds of bows at close range, shooting down into packed Roman ranks. Men drop by the dozen. The front ranks push forward, trip over their own dead, slip in the mud, break formation. A legionary named Gaius Marcius is in the 3rd rank. 32 years old. 15 years in the legions. He's fought in Illyricum, Raetia, probably a dozen skirmishes in Germania. He knows how this works. You hold the line. You trust the men beside you. You wait for the order, and you execute. But the order doesn't come. The centurion is dead, arrow through the throat. The men in front are dying so fast the line can't move forward, and the men behind are pushing, because stopping means dying. Gaius feels something punch into his side, not an arrow, a thrown axe that gets under his armor and shatters 2 ribs. He goes down. Men step on him trying to advance. He tries to get up. Can't. The mud is full of blood now, and it's slippery, and his hands can't find purchase. He dies looking up at the rain. Never sees the German who finishes him with a spear. The assault fails. The Romans pull back, dragging wounded, leaving dead. They try again. Same result. The Germans have every advantage: high ground, fortifications, fresh troops rotating in while the Romans are dying on their feet. Philon the Greek is attached to a unit trying to protect what's left of the baggage. He watches legionaries throw down their shields and run. He watches a centurion kill 3 of his own men for breaking. He watches the 19th Legion's eagle carrier get dragged off his horse and beaten to death with his own standard. The eagle, the sacred eagle that represents the soul of the legion, that has never touched the ground, that men die to protect, gets ripped away and hoisted on German spears like a trophy. That's when Philin knows they're already dead. They just haven't stopped moving yet. Night falls again. The survivors, maybe 7,000 left now, huddle in another makeshift camp. No walls this time. Just rings of exhausted men with their backs to each other, waiting for dawn or death. Varus makes his decision. He's a dead man either way, either killed here or dragged back to Rome in chains to face execution for losing 3 legions. Roman generals don't survive disasters like this. He falls on his sword. His second-in-command does the same. The senior tribunes follow. One by one, Rome's officer corps chooses the honorable Roman death over German torture. Some of the enlisted men try to surrender. The Germans aren't interested. This isn't about prisoners. It's about erasing Rome from Germania. Every Roman who came east of the Rhine needs to die screaming so the next generation thinks twice. The killing lasts all night. Methodical. Brutal. The Germans go through the Roman positions with axes and hammers, finishing wounded, stripping bodies, collecting weapons. Some Romans are kept alive, officers mostly, to be sacrificed later to German gods. They're chained to trees and left for the ritual killings. By dawn on the 5th day, the Battle of Teutoburg Forest is over. 3 Roman legions have ceased to exist. The forest is full of corpses. 15,000 Romans dead or dying. Another 10,000 camp followers, slaves, and civilians butchered in the baggage train. 25,000 people gone. The German warriors walk through the carnage like men in a dream. Some are laughing. Some are crying. They've done the impossible, destroyed Rome's legions, proven the empire can bleed. They're pulling armor off bodies, collecting swords, prying rings off dead fingers. The loot is unimaginable. Campaign chests full of coin, officers' personal wealth, military equipment worth a fortune. But it's not about money. Not really. They find the eagles. The 17th, 18th, and 19th. The sacred standards that represent Rome's invincibility. German chieftains hold them up and scream. These will be nailed to trees in sacred groves, offerings to the gods who gave them victory. Some Germans are still killing, finding wounded Romans hiding in the forest, dragging them out, finishing them slowly. There's no honor in it anymore. It's just butchery. But these are the same Germans who've watched Rome burn their villages, enslave their children, and tax them into starvation for 20 years. Revenge doesn't have a moral high ground. It just has bodies. Philon the Greek survives. He's a slave. Germans don't have a problem with slaves, just Roman soldiers. He'll spend the next 6 years in captivity before a Roman raid recovers him. In 15 AD, the Romans will finally come back to this forest and find it. The bone field. Thousands of skeletons scattered across 6 miles of trail. Skulls nailed to trees. Armor rusted into the mud. Eagles gone. They'll bury what they can find. But the Germans already took everything that mattered. The story ends with a scene 6 years later. Germanicus, Rome's greatest general of the next generation, stands in Teutoburg Forest at the site of Varus's last camp. His legions have been burying Roman bones for days. Thousands of skeletons, some still in armor, some in chains. some nailed to trees in ritualistic patterns his men won't explain. He orders an altar built, honors the dead, swears Rome will avenge them. But standing there, surrounded by ghosts, Germanicus understands something Rome doesn't want to admit. They're not going to conquer Germania. They're going to build a wall at the Rhine and call it a frontier. The age of unlimited expansion is over. Arminius and his warriors drew a line in blood and said, "This far, no further." Rome will never recover those 3 legion numbers. The 17th, 18th, and 19th are erased from history. When Rome raises new legions, they skip those numbers like they're cursed. Maybe they are. Here's the question Teutoburg leaves us with. What's the real cost of empire? Not in gold or territory, in bodies. In the men who die believing they're bringing civilization to barbarians. In the barbarians who have to become killers to stay free. In the cycle of violence that doesn't end until everyone's covered in someone else's blood. Arminius united his people, won the impossible victory, became a legend. 8 years later, his own tribe murdered him. Internal politics, old feuds. Germania didn't need Rome to destroy it. They did that themselves. Varus led his men into hell because he couldn't imagine Romans losing to Germans. That failure of imagination cost 25,000 lives. The legionaries died believing they were spreading civilization. The Germans killed them believing they were defending freedom. And 6 years later, the forest was still full of bones, and nobody could remember what the point was anymore. War doesn't create heroes. It just creates survivors, ghosts, and bone fields. Welcome to Teutoburg. 3 legions went in. None came out. And Rome never forgot